Hi, welcome to Business Model. Today we'll talk about 2x2 design thinking matrix. 2x2 design thinking matrix should help us to move from the current state to the future state with minimal resources and a limited amount of time. 2x2 design thinking matrix should help us to collect data, organize the data, and put data in action and build an accountable action plan. 2x2 design thinking matrix is structured in two big stages. In our very first stage, we will find and position the right elements in the right spot inside the matrix. In the second stage, we will build an accountable action plan using the matrix. So let's go back to our very first stage and very first step and define the current state or state of awareness. To define the current state, we use three whys. Why we are in business, why we are here, and why we want to move to the next level. Why we are in business is very tight connected to the purpose, to our purpose, because the business is nothing else but an extension of our purpose. And the business is nothing else but a manifestation of our purpose. However, we end up here because it was an opportunity, so we could manifest our purpose because it was an opportunity, or we saw a challenge and our purpose now is on a mission to solve that particular challenge. Why we're here, that means to look back to our the path, the entire path, and try to understand how we end up in this moment in space and time. The third why is why we want to move to the next level. What is the challenge? What is the opportunity behind this movement? The better we understand the why we want to move, the easier it's going to be for us to define or frame the future state. Business is nothing else but a journey from the current state to the future state. But before we initiate the journey, we should evaluate the resources and challenges we have. I know we have limited resources, especially financial resources. We have limited skills, limited time. And we have flaws, or we have our shadows. And we should be able to manage all this before we initiate the journey. After we're done with this very first stage, state of awareness, or current state, we are ready to frame our future state. Framing our future state is more than just setting the goals. This is what makes this program special, because we are not talking about goals only. We are designing the entire new reality. So we want to change one existing reality in the current state with a new one in a future state. So every element that is in that particular movie, the future state, will help us to control the journey and set the objectives and the key results, objectives and key results during the journey, or stops, in between stops. So we stay always focused on what is important, not to get lost. That's why I call the 2x2 design thinking matrix a compass. So always show us the right direction, the north point. After we frame, we have the movie, the entire dynamic of the future state, we are ready to go to our third step. And positioning in the middle of the matrix, the right user can be a customer. Most of the time when we talk about user experience, when we talk about design thinking, and we talk about customers. But in reality, you can build a 2x2 design thinking matrix around different kind of users. Probably the most important one is you, the entrepreneur, the small business owner. And according to who is in the middle of the matrix, the entire dynamic is gonna change. However, if you have all elements in the same place, but only the user, the same elements in the place, but we change only the user, then the entire analytical process is gonna change. And we'll talk about this in a few. After we know who is in the middle of the matrix, who's holding the matrix, we are ready to complete the other two empty spots, which are critical points. I call passive thinking point and active thinking point. Passive thinking point here has the capacity to move us from the current state to the future state, but it's not going to do it until the other element, the active thinking point, is not going to generate the first action against the passive thinking point. So now with passive thinking point and active thinking point, we create an action reaction diagram or action reaction model. Like in physics, like in chemistry, we need two elements, a minimum two elements to generate energy and the force and the right vector towards to what we want. I said this is the most challenging part because we want to find the right elements which will generate the right energy to move us with the maximum force and maximum speed from the current state to the future state. So let's put it this way. If you want to move, you want to travel from San Diego to Los Angeles, you have many options to do it. You can walk, you can ride the bicycle, you can take a train, you can take a private jet, or you can drive a car, right? We evaluate the person in the middle, me, my needs. I want to go now. I don't have all the money for the private jet. I don't have all the time to ride a bicycle or to walk. So I'm gonna use the vehicle, the car as a vehicle. So the passive thinking point is the car. The car has the capacity to take me from San Diego to Los Angeles according to my needs. But guess what? Nothing is gonna happen until the active thinking point is in place. And who's the active thinking point? It's me, the driver. I should be able to jump in a car, start the engine, and drive the car from San Diego to Los Angeles. So now, I hope with this simple example, we understood the relation between passive thinking point and active thinking point. Now, let's talk about business. If at the current state, I do have a product and I'm ready to sell. I have a product in stock, ready to sell. In the future state, I want to trade the product or the service for money. I want to generate a sale or increase the quality of existing sales. In the middle of the matrix is going to be the customer. Now, which are the other two elements that will help us to generate the sales as fast as possible with minimum resources invested? The more we understand about the buyer's journey, the easier it's going to be for us to build a communication strategy that will meet the buyer during the critical moments of the buying journey. So now I think we got an idea. Buying journey, customers' buying journey has the capacity to generate the sales, but nothing is going to happen. They're probably not going to buy from us, but probably is going to buy from somebody else until we do not send the right message at the right time to meet with the customer during the buying journey. So the passive thinking point is the buyer's journey, and the active thinking point is the communication strategy or marketing strategy. So in order to move from the current state to the future state as fast as possible, with minimal resources invested, we should understand very clear who is the customer, what is the buying process, what is the buying journey, buyer's journey, and what message we should send. We will talk about this in our lesson. We talk about communication strategy, communication matrix. I hope now we have a clear understanding about current state, future state, user, passive thinking point, and active thinking point. And I would like at the very end of this stage to validate if the elements of the matrix are the right one. To be a right element, that means we should generate the maximum energy that will move us from the current state to the future state. So let's go back to our buying process. We have a product. We have in the future state we want to generate the sales. In the middle we have the customer. We have here the buyer's journey, customer's journey, customer's buying journey, and then we have here the communication strategy. So if you don't have an understanding of the buying journey, you don't have a communication strategy, we are just wasting money, quote unquote. In a Q2, if you do not have an understanding of the buying journey or customers purchasing the product and reinvesting money in marketing, we kind of go blind, half blind, right? The other half blind is to have an understanding of buying journey, but not doing anything, not sending any message, right? So wasting a lot of potential here. And the best, the Q4 is to have a clear understanding of the buying journey and send the right message at the right time. And now you are a winner. And at this point, we are done with the first stage, and we able to build a 2x2 design thinking matrix. In the next video, we'll focus on translating the matrix into an accountable action plan. See you in a few.